Brought to you by the Rugby Outlet Mall, equipping you for freedom and connection through rugby. Find out more at rugbyoutletmall.com. Hey, what's up, all you cats and kittens? No, I'm playing. Hey, this is GiftTime at Bailu with the Greaux Rugby Podcast. Welcome back to another one. I'm so happy to have you guys here. Obviously, if you have seen the now infamously known documentary on Netflix, Tiger Kings, then you will understand what that beginning is coming from. I'm not going to sit here and promote it because I'm not getting paid to. And basically, social media has done more than enough of that. So if you haven't seen it at this point or heard about it at this point or seen the memes, like, yo, kudos to the blind world that you're living in because, yeah, it's just not gonna. You're just getting a blockage that is amazing. I did see it, so I know. But dude, it has been a wild week. I tried to put a podcast out for Friday last week, but I had some errors and just wasn't able to put it out the way that I wanted to. So still look for these Tuesdays and Fridays. Try and put out 2 a week. Try and make sure I can catch up, make sure there's things to be able to listen to and watch. It looks like we have another 30 days of quarantine in the coronavirus era. So I want to make sure that there is something for you guys to gain and learn and listen to and have some fun and entertainment. Me and so many other creators that are out there. So let me not pretend like I am one, but I am one unique one that will give you for this rugby cultural world that we're trying to live in. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I have a really great guest on. I actually had done this for the HBCU Rugby Classic promo time. This is Prairie View A&M's Rhahim Vital, as well as Mike Toussaint coming on, 2 of the captains and seniors from this year's Prairie View A&M rugby team. They'd actually been a part of this HBCU Rugby Classic the last 2 years, so it would have been really nice to be able to have them, and you'll hear in the podcast why it's kind of unfortunate that this whole thing had to get canceled for a number of reasons, of course, but, it particularly for them, there's the personal aspect that goes along with it, so, but I hope you guys are having a good week. It's been wild in the rugby world. Like, we already knew that so many businesses were taking hits lately, but I don't know if we realize how many. Biggest news in terms of USA Rugby is the USA Rugby, the governing body, had to file Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Now, for those that don't actually know what that means, because a lot of people see bankruptcy and assume purely insolvency, and what that actually means, there's a few levels of bankruptcy, a few chapters, but the most known ones are Chapter 7 and Chapter 11. Well, in Chapter 7 bankruptcy, you actually are dismantling the organization. That means they have to sell off all their assets, and they are just no longer able to function, and it's just a means of no longer being able to pay the debts. The debts have outweighed the expense, the revenue that's being brought in, which is something that a lot of rugby and a lot of businesses are feeling. But USA Rugby thankfully got a little bit of a grant from, let's call it a loan, from World Rugby. Somehow World Rugby was able to pull out some money to be able to pay $2.5 million to USA Rugby. Not nearly enough to be able to take care of all the debts, but it's going to give USA Rugby another year, and hence why they filed what is called Chapter 11, which essentially means the USA government is going to, the actual government, federal government, is going to give USA Rugby, or an organization that files a Chapter 11, the opportunity to be able to pay off their debts and package their debts incrementally. So essentially they will look into any debts that can be compacted into, any debts that can be thrown to the side, and any mandatory debts that have to be done. And what they'll do is create a payment plan that USA Rugby is going to have to pay. And one way or another, they're going to have to figure out how to pay this consistently. And if they miss payments, then it could lead to insolvency and essentially the federal government selling off all the assets at USA Rugby, including the ability to be able to function as a program, a nonprofit or profit organization, so that those who are being owed get their money back. So this is going to be an interesting one. I put a little poll out on Instagram to see how many people thought that USA Rugby was going to actually be able to figure this out. And let's just say there's not a whole lot of faith, and it's not without cause. I mean, we're talking about a situation that has been multiple years in the making. I think a lot of it really started off from that 2014 All Blacks versus USA Rugby match in Chicago. As great as it was for numbers, it was financially horrible. And it's not just that solely, because they didn't make any money from that. Like they really lost a lot of money. And on top of that, like the way that they did the rights on it, like the All Blacks kind of got over on USA Rugby with that. But I mean, for no fault of their own, like you take advantage, you're the best, you have the leverage, you do what you do. That's business. And then we had like the horrible South Africa game back in like 2016, 2017 that was done in DC in the horrible that horrible stadium, and that was right before the Rugby World Cup. So that was 2015 that happened. And South Africa, it was South Africa and another country, Ireland, I think. It wasn't Ireland. It was, I forgot who the other one was, but it was just basically a wash on that because South Africa wasn't going to send its best team over because they were getting ready for the 2015 Rugby World Cup, and it was poorly promoted and another big money loss. And, you know, we knew about the whole turnover that occurred back in 2018, 2019, even Dan Payne stepping down after a very short stint as CEO. So USA Rugby as an organization from the executive side has been just kind of on a down spiral. And it's kind of sad because there's so many people who work for USA Rugby that have done good jobs, like that are not in that executive position. And, you know, there's caring people that have been in the executive position, but it's just... This hasn't been in, and this is like a lesson in arrogance, a lesson in humility, and a lesson in needing to allow change to happen when it's supposed to happen. So it's going to be interesting. A lot of people are worried about what is going to happen in terms of the adjoining programs that go along with it, whether it's from club rugby and what's going to occur with that, college rugby, and obviously the international side, 7s side and 15s. Needless to say, look, there's one thing that you can say for sure. The 7 side is going to be okay. They're taken care of. 15 side is going to be a little bit iffy because that's been really connected to the USA Rugby side, a USA Rugby governing body. They haven't solely done it because, you know, performance-wise, it hasn't been too great for them. And the Rugby World Cup results probably did not they didn't help anything. And then on top of that, you have... you worry about what happened with the lowers, but let's put things into context. One, your college rugby, I think, is going to be fine. NSCRO has been an individual entity since its existence, and it only partnered with USA Rugby, and it really was more in recent years that it partnered. So what they'll do, and NSCRO actually released a press release today, Tuesday, March 31st, about being able to create solidarity and autonomy for themselves and being able to get insurance and have a platform to be able to position their stats and data and everything like that, since USA Rugby most likely will no longer be able to hold on to it and be able to provide for it. So NSCRO's fine. D1A Rugby has already separated actually last year. It started at the beginning of this year, but they had already been in the process of separation right after the executive hoo-ha that went down 2018. And so they're under College Rugby of America. And obviously they brought in D1 Elite, if you guys have been paying attention to the news in the last few weeks. So D1A Rugby is fine. They're going to make it. They've been working. And if you guys have seen, like we have This Week in College Rugby, which unfortunately is now canceled until the fall because we don't have any more rugby. There's no more shows. And obviously the stay-home order around the nation has prevented the guys over in the studios to be able to come and do the production and host it. So as an analyst, we're no longer needed in that aspect. But in terms of that, what they've done with 11 Sports, big shout out to Shay Flowers and Kevin, just being able to do the work, and a bunch of other guys, Kirby and all them, doing a bunch of work to be able to create a separate entity for D1A rugby and be able to properly put out the stuff that they need to. So it's good. We're good in that. Now the question will come into what's going to happen with D2 and D1AA rugby, but honestly, when it comes to this, I believe it's the greatest thing that you could have actually happen to rugby, because it now forces rugby people to actually treat rugby like a business and actually function in a unified manner in terms of entities for themselves. And of course, it's going to be unified. It's going to start from a regional basis, and then they're going to come together as a conglomerate and work together for national championships and stuff, and probably use a SIP format or membership fees to be able to hold on. I mean, I guess SIP is still going to exist because USA Rugby is still going to exist into some form, but it's still going to be a good product. We're going to see good rugby, and probably we're going to see a lot more freedom because there's not going to be as many hardcore restrictions, and we're going to see actual executive action that happens, so that the grassroots is not just lazily the grassroots out of passion, but grassroots out of mission and with purpose and with an intent towards a specific goal. And obviously with MLR is not affected by this at all. So it's not as bad. It's not as dire as everyone wants to make it out to be. Of course, there's going to be some people that got grants and a lot of youth rugby, social programs that were put into place that USA Rugby was helping to fund that are going to have to figure out how to reorganize themselves. But again, this is an autonomy game. And, for me, in GiftTime Rugby, and you guys look out for it, we want to be able to work on being able to connect you with different marketing programs, different, help where we can with finding advertisers, coming with marketing plans or anything like that, so that rugby can be able to be a self-sustaining entity here in the U.S. That's the American way. Because even look at it like this: you think that model in terms of how USA Rugby was doing worked, but you look in New Zealand. This coronavirus has put New Zealand Rugby Union almost out of business. They're fighting for bankruptcy because they lost TV money whenever Super Rugby had to shut down, and they were trying to do domestic Super Rugby without crowds, and it's not working. And when the TV money doesn't come in, that's when things start to hurt. So New Zealand Rugby Union is in pain. Add to that, Australian Rugby League is in pain. And if you guys didn't know about what's going on in Australia, Rugby Union was already in a world of hurt. We saw they were dealing with issues with Falau. Oh man, I forgot his name. The homophobic cat. It'll come to me if I research it, but I don't want to look away from the camera. So, but they were already dealing with their own stuff. But they actually had a population issue. Rugby League was actually gaining traction more and more in Australia than Rugby Union, and Rugby Union was actually falling back. So it in itself was already taking hits, and then add to that now Rugby League is taking a hit too. So Australia is in a world of hurt in it of itself. So this isn't something that is just solely connected, and I'm hoping what this shows is that rugby as a community, as an international community, is going to take its commerce seriously, like really take it as a competitive commercial entity and not a passionate one. Mind you, you have Europe and they're managing and they work more ideally to what you like it, but it's still a slippery slope in a lot of senses. But luckily they have it, Pro 14 in France, Guinness, not Guinness, Premiership in England and the UK and most of Western Europe. Like they're gonna be all right, but look, this is revealing a lot of serious weaknesses that occurred within this rugby entity, and I think it really made a difference as to why rugby is the sixth leading largest sport in the world, but is not in the top 3 in most countries in terms of performance or in terms of activity. And shoot, we're even talking like New Zealand being maybe one of the few. England might be number 3 or 4 Rugby might be 3 or 4 on that list. And South Africa, you're talking about number 3 or 4 maybe on that list. And there's a few other, the Oceania area, you might have a little bit more in that top 3. But look, you're talking about things like cricket, soccer, playing in a bigger factor in a lot of these places. So, rugby has a real effort to overhaul its system. So I hope you guys, enjoy. And also, the other big news is the Olympic being moved over to 2021. And now a lot of people are like, obviously that's good because the athletes just weren't going to have time. I know for me, it was a little bit of a loss because I was already set to go there to cover it. Media pass life. But I was already going to go over there to cover it. But, it's okay. We're not losing accreditation or anything like that. So it's move over. But I think a lot of people don't think, and I think it's really unfair that it hasn't been brought up often. The Women's Rugby World Cup is in 2021. Like, it is in September 2021. The Olympic Sevens is going to be in July and August of 2021. And if you actually pay attention to women's rugby, a lot of sevens players play 15s. So this is going to be really tight in terms of preparation and in terms of doing test matches and qualifiers leading into that. I think we're going to see some conflict within the women's game. And if you guys saw 2017's Women's Rugby World Cup, that was a really amazing Women's Rugby World Cup. Like, it was a really great, highest ratings, well broadcast, well performing, everybody really competitive. Like, it was really dynamic. So this is going to be an interesting one, what 2021 is going to bring. It's going to be the turnover of what everything was supposed to be in 2021 and what happens in 2020, barring any worse situations happening with the coronavirus and such. So this is an interesting time that we have here in front of us. But enough of what's going on in news, guys. I want to tell you a little bit about who we got coming on. These are 2 great rugby players from HBCUs, 2 of the main running HBCUs. There's about 4 overall that have rugby, and we're going to continue to work to grow that. But Mike Toussaint and Rhahim Vital, great guys, really hardworking, part of the, not the original founders, but the early people. And you get a lot of history about Prairie View A&M rugby, how much HBCUs really mean for the student body and how much rugby really means for it and what rugby can actually do. So I was really happy for this one. I'm really excited to show this. Guys, please, enjoy this. And if you guys do like it, please take the time to share this with your friends, share this with family members. We're trying to bring this out. We want to bring opportunity and network to rugby and to the rugby body, and just make sure that you guys just enjoy, just basically know what this sport can actually do in and outside of the pitch. So without further ado, please enjoy this lovely, amazing interview with Prairie View A&M's Rhahim Vital and Mike Toussaint. Cheers.
Grow rugby, grow rugby, grow rugby, grow
let go to rock.
Grow rugby, grow rugby, grow rugby, grow
let go to rock.
All right, everybody, we got another special guest for you here today. From Prairie View A&M Rugby, some guys that I've already known for the last couple years here. We got Rhahim Vital and Mike Toussaint. Yo, it's a pleasure seeing you guys again. How have you guys been taking care of yourselves?
Man, we've been good, man. Rugby is always going on, so the game goes on, and so do we.
It's a great feeling to be back again. It's beautiful.
Man, I'm happy to be able to have you guys back again, especially for this HBCU Rugby Classic. I think we've set, I low-key feel now we have set a tradition where there has to be a comeuppance on one side. The rivalry has gone strong for 2 years, and now it must continue to see what happens next. So I'm happy to be able to have you. But kind of right off the bat, tell me this, a lot of people didn't know about you guys before we even really did the event in terms of a wider scale. So can you guys give a little bit of a background? Like, how did PVMU rugby start?
Let's see. So one of the founder is actually still plays for the team. His name is Malik Johnson, and he founded the team. I don't know how, but I came in like a few years later, and it was ran by Rico, and we just took it. We just took it from there. We had like a shady coach, not shady, but we didn't really like have a stable coach, but. We've like taken what we've had, we ran with it thanks to you, having us with the HBCU Classic, and we're now in the Lone Star Conference, moving up in tiers, and we're steadily on the rise, man.
Yo, I love that. Like, I'm happy to hear that because, it's always been important to be able to know that not only is it like you guys are existing, but are constantly improving and being able to establish your foothold in terms of just recognition and in performance as well. For you guys, like Rhahim, you talked about whenever you started, and Mike, a little bit like what got you guys started playing rugby in the first place?
Oh, man. So it's funny. I actually got cut from the tennis team, and from there I was like, well, I'm lost, and I want to be part of an organization. I want to be part of something where I could see myself grow as a person, and that's when I had met Rico. And then Rico gave me, he took me to practice. And from there, it was just an amazing feeling to go to practice and have like this great feeling and learn this new sport completely. When I started to get the ropes and when I started to understand how the game works, and I started teaching people. And it's a long cycle of just recruiting and teaching, but it's beautiful. It was such a great recovery from tennis, but I love it to death right now.
Yeah, same. I had known Rico before, like I think like a few days before we were in the game room, we were just playing, and we had an open house for PPV where like all the organizations come out and like try to advertise themselves. And I saw Rico, and I was like, hey, I know you. He was like, yeah, come over here, let me show you something. And that's how I got signed up, and I went out there, and I loved it. Like it was like a big family. Everybody was having fun, and like I stayed. I was like, this is me right here.
Man, dude, I love it. Like, for the sake of people who don't know, because we all know who Rico, but for the sake of it, Rico is Enrique Spence Brown. Just for people to know, he was captain last year. He was a first-year MVP for HBCU Rugby Classic. So, for those who don't know who Rico, boom. But I didn't realize how much he had been the centerpiece for recruiting so many people in over the course of the years. Prairie View A&M, the team actually started when? Was it 2014? Did it start 2015?
Yeah, I think it was 2014.
Yeah, 2014.
Mm.
So, know your history, guys. What are you doing? No.
It's 2014 for a fact. Like.
No, but since you guys started playing, you guys have seen opportunities and stuff. Like, what has been the feeling of being able to play at Prairie View A&M, but play rugby for Prairie View A&M, and even more so, what has kind of been the reaction of rugby on campus? Because as most people know, and especially with Black people, most people look at rugby as that crazy white boy sport that they just kind of lose their minds, like, and do Black people even play? So for you being able to represent this HBCU, what's the experience like playing there?
I can say from my own experience, now I am the recruiter, so it is really hard finding people to recruit. But for me, I was actually surprised at some of the people who were actually very interested, because like you were saying, you see a lot of people who are like, nah, man, there's no pads, I'm out. Or there's, nah, bro, you guys are just freely hitting each other, I'm out. But honestly, it went down to the new people that we have recruited. They make the most strides, and you love to see that. And it's crazy because now it's like, now that I guess we've been getting a little bit bigger and a little more, how would I say this? A little more exposure, Now people are they might not be interested in playing, but they know who plays rugby now. Like I do get shout outs a lot. A lot of people call me rugby guy or, rugby boy. So it is nice to have this kind of awareness and this kind of love that I get at my campus. So I love it.
Man,
yeah, I would say kind of the same. Like no one knew about rugby on campus, but I mean, you know, going around playing, trying to advertise, trying to be like, hey, you know, come to our game. You know, it's here on campus. They don't know what it is. I don't know how to explain it to them, honestly. I just say it's a mix of football and soccer, and I'm like, you just have to come out and play. But like having them ask and like not know, it does like affect you. But you just like, you know what, this is a perfect opportunity to show you some greatness right now. And so when people ask like, you know, why are you playing it? Because, you know, that is a white man's sport. But, you know, what was football? Football started because of rugby. So it's like, you know, you can come, you can play, and then you can do what you love best, you know?
Yo, and that's what I always say. Like, it's a lot of people come in with these myths and these ideas of what the sport's gonna do until it's like, yo, just come check it out. And I know even for me, even though I didn't know, I only knew a little bit about rugby because I liked football when I first started. And at the time, I didn't even think rugby was like an actual play sport. I thought people played rugby like people do fencing. Like, yo, let me go live my nostalgic musketeer life or something like that. But then whenever you get into it, it always catches you one on this field. Like there's a rush of being able to play on the field. And then the next thing was for me was the culture, which was the one that actually hooked me the most, where it was like, yo, it felt like we were still like, it felt like college, but without the work. And then it felt like a network. And then it was just like, oh man, this network's legit. You know, with you guys, obviously you guys get to have a special advantage that I think differs from a lot of PWI schools, is where you have the HBCU culture, then you have the rugby culture, and then obviously you guys are within Texas. So you get this other layers of culture. Like whenever you guys started, you know, traveling and playing teams, how did this all mix together for you guys? Like how did it fit? How did it connect?
So I'd say for us getting into the Lone Star Conference, I believe we were there before I believe myself and Rhahim joined. But when we actually got to go out there and compete against teams who were, you know, affiliated with PWIs and they were not part of the HBCU kind of culture, it is kind of like a culture shock because they're like, wow, you know, I met one team in University of Houston and they were just so happy to see the expansion as far as the sport. So it is a beautiful thing. As far as us traveling to go play, we really don't play too many teams outside of Texas. Like all of them have been inside of Texas. So other than Morehouse, but every other team I believe has been inside of Texas. Yeah, for the most part. So we're always in Texas. But what's great is that we go head to head with like PWIs to show that Black rugby is trending and it is coming fierce, like heavy.
Yeah, I would say when we go against teams, I feel like they're super shocked to figure out, you know, that PV has a rugby team, and that gives us a competitive edge. They're just like, whoa, never seen this before. So let's see what they got, and then we just end up like destroying them because it's just they underestimate us. You know, we're a pretty young team. You know, founded like 2014,
6 years ago.
6 years ago. Yeah. So that culture mix and that like it connecting with rugby is like giving us an edge because no one knows about us. But it's also, not gonna lie, it's also like a disadvantage because we don't have sponsors like other teams have. We don't have a coach that wants to come to us like other teams have because they've been established for so long. And so, you know, it's a mix of good and bad, but you know, we take what we can get and we work with it.
Yeah, no, I mean, and I think that comes with I mean, obviously the struggles of any new team. Like, let's be honest, you know, even within rugby itself, there's always a struggle, especially within the U.S. There's always a struggle of just trying to find the support and explain on its own. But then you have the layer of being a new team. So, and a new team within a culture that hasn't really developed rugby acumen per se. You know, hasn't necessarily put really known about it, to be honest with you, and as much. So you're really starting from scratch, but you get to see it from the beginning to end. And to know that you guys have been here for 6 years is already amazing in and of itself. And even like I remember whenever you guys came to the first HBCU Rugby Classic, you guys came in hard. Like you kind of came like you weren't here to play. Like recess is over and it's time for class. So, you know, with that newness, because at that point it's 4 years that you guys have started. It's basically a class. Like, what has always been the mindset for PVMU rugby? Like, what is it that you guys try and focus on each season to make sure that you guys are able to accomplish what you want, whether it's wins, whether it's recruiting or whatever? Like, what goes through the team, philosophy?
Got you. Yeah. So in that aspect, that's really one of the things that we push is family. Like before, obviously did not know Rhahim until I got into rugby, and ever since then, this has been like one of the closest people like I can ever say I know today. So it is family before anything, and that's the best part about rugby because I feel more or less like no matter win or lose, I know I'm going to war with my brothers. You know what I'm saying? So I understand that even if I do mess up or if I do have a problem, I know who to go to, or I know that they'll, look at me and be like, hey, Mike, we got to do this and this, or Mikey, we got to, move the ball or swing, So for recruiting purposes, it's fun to say family, but at times it's a little too generic, but it's honestly a big, happy family. Like, I love these people to death. Yeah.
I'll say our mindset have been, getting down to basics.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing how to pass, knowing how to run properly, knowing how to compete, really. And with that competitiveness, you do get a sense of family because we're always together trying to get better.
Mm-hmm.
And this that family has really like grown because when you're on the field, now you're like, what, I didn't train with this guy for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Whatever I do, he's already gonna know because we didn't done it front, back, sideways, diagonal. So
upside down.
Like that family connection really like turns into trust when you're on the field.
Yeah.
And so we kind of push that when we're playing, having that closeness with each other.
No, I think that's real, and it makes sense. Like I said, being able to see how you guys are on and off the pitch, like it really is legit a bonding. It looks like you guys have really bonded, and you guys have you move as a unit, to say the least. So I think that's so dope. Before we get into too much details going into the HBCU Rugby Classic, I guess I always like to ask, what was from the beginning, because you guys have the pleasure of having seen this start from pretty much day one till last year and what we're going into this year. So, whenever I obviously hit up Rico whenever the information was sent to me and what was known, whenever you guys heard that we were trying to do this HBCU Rugby Classic in 2018, like what was the thoughts? Like, how did you guys come with the decision making on that? Because I heard it was a challenge, both financially, obviously, logistically, but you guys ended up pulling through. So what was that process for you guys leading into that first HBCU Rugby Classic?
So when we first heard about it, we were like, okay, this isn't another tournament or something. But then I started looking into it. It was like, it's Beaumont. That's kind of far. Gas money, hotels also.
It's Baton Rouge.
Baton Rouge. So we were like, that's a lot of money. But we saw that this was something like more than just a tournament. This was something like an exposure. This was something like, this is us presenting ourselves to the world. Like, hey, we are PV Rugby, and we came here to play. And so we took drastic steps to actually get there. We had a GoFundMe. We were doing fundraisers, asking parents, moms, uncles, aunts. In the end, we went and we did great. We showed out. We showed that we were here. So I felt that was really like a great decision on our part when it came to doing it.
Yeah, I felt like in terms like I was saying before, Black rugby is trending. Like any type of exposure we could have to just show that, yeah, rugby is a white sport, if you will. Don't get it wrong, the brothers can play too. You know what I'm saying? Like, we will go out there and we will show out. On top of it, representing our university outside of the state of Texas is one big step that I don't believe any rec sport in the university has ever done. So for us to get this type of advantage, or for us to get this type of exposure, has been great for us, honestly, realistically.
I love it. And then even for the second year, obviously the results weren't as preferred as you had the first year, which I think made this into a very, very unique rivalry of the HBCUs. You know, what did you guys see that you saw differently, not just maybe from the event, but from how people reacted to you guys at on campus, as well as how parents saw you guys? Like, what was the difference between year one and year two for PVMU when it came to that?
Okay, so year one, I believe when we got back, school was over. But coming in, we kind of like got a little Twitter exposure, and that's when this kind of like hype started taking off. And that's when people started to recognize us. We'd walk down, be like, "Oh, you play rugby? Yeah, I play rugby." Like by random people. So that kind of put the foundation for year two. We got to go in, and it's just win, win, win. Like it is, like you said, we're going out of recess, we're going straight to class. Like it's all business here. Obviously, the results did not land that way, but for us, I believe now going into year three, which is crazy to say now, going into year three, it's more fire. It's more fuel to the fire that we have to go out there and not just play, but to execute perfectly. Like I feel like right now it's with the type of bonding and the type of bonding and family that we do have now. I do feel like the morale is high, the chemistry is higher. I feel like this is gonna be the best one yet.
For me, on year one, I feel like it was just a test. To see like what can we do, what all is PV rugby capable, what all are HBCUs capable of. And so when we went there, we won, we whooped some tails, and they was like, okay,
Yeah.
we see it,
Yeah.
we understand. That really got us that like foothold at PV and at like at all HBCUs. Like PV has a team, they're winning, they're doing stuff with this at this HBCU Classic. And then year two, we had more people come, or I felt like, and then we had more exposure. People were like, y'all win, y'all like, what's happening?
Yeah.
And then we didn't win, but they were happy that we were there again. And like it's an annual thing now, or we want to make it an annual thing, of course. And like just that exposure, like people are knowing about, they want to know, like, hey, what are y'all doing? Y'all good? That overall us getting known, people actually getting to know us. I feel like that was the difference between year one and year two.
Most definitely. Yeah, because year one, it's hard to promote it because we didn't really have many. I wouldn't say audience. Yeah, we didn't have much of an audience. But year two, although granted, all the times it's pretty much at the end of the school year, but still, it's people who are very interested and they really do love us. Like they like to see us going down the hallway, or they like to ask, "Oh, how'd you guys do last week?" or "How was the game against Texas A&M?" It's just these little questions that they ask. It really shows that they do care. It's been amazing.
Man, dude, I love to hear that. I love to hear that you guys are got more attention or get more attention. And because you guys have put in that work. Like that's you guys have been putting in that work, and all it does is just slowly blossom, especially whenever people know that you're representing for not just yourselves, you're representing for the community, for the sport, for your team, for your guy. Like that's real. So I'm happy to hear that. Going into this third year, last year we kind of added a component to it, which was the high school side, and this year we get to kind of improve on it more. For you guys, like, what does it mean to be able to kind of have high schoolers who, may not have known about you guys or known about HBCU rugby, but you guys have a chance to be able to perform in front of them, and then more importantly, create a network and communicate with them. Like, what does that possibly mean for y'all in terms of what the future could hold?
Yeah. I would say, like, when I learned about recruiting, there's like two different types of recruiting. You could recruit internally with what we have, as far as the university, or you could recruit externally, which would be, in that case scenario, the high schoolers or incoming freshmen, to show that, hey, this is Prairie View. We have a rugby organization, and we're not just your bare bones or your basic rugby organization. We're here as a family. We're here as a strong force within our campus. So it just gives you a little taste of the campus. At the same time, you get to obviously see the rugby team. It's a great recruiting technique, honestly. This is one of the reasons why I feel like every time we do make appearances outside of Prairie View, that we have to be tip-top shape. You know, we have to just go out there and be monsters. And that's just kind of like how I feel, especially with the high schoolers, because myself and Rhahim, we didn't have the high school experience for us to go play rugby. So it is a blessing for them, definitely. And I love the idea of high schoolers playing at the HBCU Classic. It's great.
Oh, yes. I feel like to have them like sit or to have us play in front of them, it's not only like something to look up to, but it's like, you know, maybe I should go with them. Like it's like watching pros to them, you know, or at least watching that next level. Like, okay, like maybe if I can't go to this school, I want to at least be like them. I want to know how they're doing. I want to know how they learn this move. It's like having that figure in your life, or like in the basis of rugby. Yeah. I feel like having them there is like a really great thing to do, because not everybody has somebody to watch when it comes to rugby. Like, you know, I can watch pros all I want to, but I'm not gonna know how to do what the pros do. I can't go up and talk to them personally. Yeah. When they're there, they can talk to me like, hey, where'd you learn this? How'd you learn this? What are some tips, tricks? You know, how'd you get through this? I'm going through school right now. Like, we can relate on that personal level.
Most definitely.
So I feel like it's an overall like great like sequence to have.
Yo, no, that's real. No, and I think that makes sense. I think, you know, again, it goes back to the issue of the exposure. Like, the more that you're able to set out, especially when it comes to these new audiences, the more it gives you a chance to establish the credibility of who you are.
Most definitely.
Right, you know, and then all you can do is just grow from there, and even puts a challenge on the club too, to be like, look, we're out here, yo, we're gonna work to make sure that we're maintaining it too. You want to be able to come join in part of that, you know, development and be part of that history and everything like that. So I think that's awesome that even for you, Mike, that to be able to get the recruiting eye from it, and Rhahim to be able to, you know, understand the influence that comes along with that. Like, that's what we all try to do, I guess, to grow the sport, as cliche as that term has become. But, you know, we're trying to grow the sport. And so now that you guys obviously have the HBCU Rugby Classic, you guys have created a rivalry. First year, you guys completely dominated. Second year, Morehouse dominated. So for you, what's the mindset now? Like, if you ever get a chance to talk with the Morehouse guys, or do you guys like, what's the mindset now going into it? Is it like, oh, we're gonna show out, or is it like, yo, we got to get back at these Morehouse guys? Like, yo, we can't be letting them take our stuff like that.
Yeah, I definitely feel like, I guess because it's a little more personal to me, I got a little close with the Morehouse guys, and this is actually my last year playing. So with that, I'm going out with a bang. Like, there's no more L's 2020. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, this is one of the biggest games I'm gonna play while I have this PV Rugby jersey on. So every time I step up to these guys at the HBCU Classic, there's no more time to mess up, because I have no more time left, you know, if we're being honest. So I feel like the first game, it was like, okay, let's go test the waters. Second game, we already beat these guys, but I know we can handle them. Obviously, that didn't happen. Third game, we're coming. Like, we're serious this time. No joke. I got some dogs in the dog pound, and they've been waiting to come out, man. That's all I can say.
Oh, yes. My mindset is, they took something from me. I'm going to get it back.
Yeah.
We have some new people ready to go. We've been hyping them up about it, training them. We ready to go get that W back. Yeah. They took something from us.
Yeah, no, for real.
Oh, yes. We're coming with that heat.
That heat.
Bring that fire.
It's like Miami in here. That Miami heat. Okay.
Oh, man. Yes, indeed. Yo, I love it. Yeah. And, you know, like I said, I've always enjoyed every time you guys come out. It always is to be able to see this, like, just come into fruition. Like, it always makes me excited. Like, it's a highlight for me, too, because it's seeing you guys, you know, seeing how people react to it, seeing the growth, and then obviously just we're all developing this network that I don't think people always realize like rugby can give, but even intricately, it changes like the mindset. It just goes from it being like, yo, you know, we had these people, but we also got, you know, those, you know, ours as well, and it makes everything feel even more intimate, more personal, more real. And so if you got to go whoop ass, then, you're whooping ass out of love. But
Yeah. I didn't know we could say that. I did not know we could say that, but now that I know. Look, now that I know, we're going fast. Look.
Like, no, I always tell people, it's like, any team is always like, that's your little brother. It's like, you don't want your little brother to suck. You don't want your little brother to hurt. You don't want to hurt your little brother. But, if your little brother's trying to step up to the game, you got to show him what's up.
Yeah.
Yes, no.
Yeah, he has to look. You have to get beaten to beat. Look, that's the truth. Hey. But yeah, I love this. It's been such a crazy. Now that I think about it, I think you had one of these games on your birthday.
Yeah, that was the first one. That was the first one.
Yeah, and then it just goes to show that, like, when we first realized that, I was like, yo, this guy is crazy about rugby. Like, I don't know if you went through it, but I was like, yo, Gift is crazy about rugby. Like, if we're being honest here, like, that guy is in love with the sport. And then we follow your social media and how ridiculous you are. I mean, we love it. You know what I'm saying? So, like, we big fans of that. So for us, like, when we see the top dog, which would be you, going crazy and hyping this up, it puts, like we talk about fuel to the fire, it puts a lot of fuel for us. Because it's like, yo, this is what you want to see, and I bet you want to see a good one. Like, this is probably going to be the best one. I'm telling you that.
I agree.
Yeah, and I'm putting $20 that I'm going to win the MVP right now on air. Look, I said, let's go. This is the year of the Toussaint. It's the year of the Toussaint. I'm calling it. Give me a T-shirt. Look.
Get it nice. Get it nice across the back.
Yeah, I'll get you one too. Look. For the team, yeah, I forgot. But the team, yeah.
No, man, I love it. I love it. Kind of closing it out, for you guys, what is it that you guys want people to, whenever they see PVMU rugby, whether they see you guys shirts, or whether they see you guys in the on the streets, whether they see you guys or just hear about it, when they see whatever PVMU rugby, what do you want them to know it means to them? Like, what do you want them to know to associate with that name?
Oh man. Okay. That's a good one. That's a really good one. Okay. I really do like that one. But what I want to tell a lot of people is we want to change the narrative. Like I've been saying, and I've kind of like driven this during my time of playing rugby. I want to make Black rugby trending. Like, it's just something. There's not a lot of HBCUs that have rugby teams, if we're being honest. So I want to make Black rugby a thing. We talk so much about, how are we as the Black community going to be a powerhouse in society? The thing is, we have to step outside of the box sometimes. And if that means going to try out that sport, that's a risk that somebody had to take when it came to playing basketball. There had to be the first Black person to play basketball. Now, I'm not saying there's not Black people who play rugby, but there's not enough. And with the talent that I've seen across the boards with 7-on-7 or just random, basketball pickup games, we definitely have the talent within HBCUs to go out there and just be a force within this conference. Hopefully, if we have Black rugby trending, we could have our own conference, Yeah, and that's kind of the thing. Honestly, I want to show people that, we're part of Prairie, and we wanted to show that Prairie is a bunch of, like, gentlemen, out there. Like, we're business gentlemen. Like, we don't want to have the stereotypical thug look, or we don't want to be associated in that kind of crowd. We want to be respected. We want to be loved, and we want to show a dominant force, like a dominant male force. But at the same time, we want Black rugby to be as big as we envision it to be, So that's one thing that I say. When you look at Prairie View Rugby, you definitely see just like higher excellence, it's professional. It has professional,
So for me, when people like think about PV rugby, I want them to think about it the way they think about football or basketball. I want to have a PV rugby team when I get in college.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I want that to be something that's at every high school, or at least in the mind of every high school. Mm-hmm. And like, if you're in college, I want people to think, oh, maybe I think about joining the PV rugby team. I heard they're doing good.
Yeah.
Or I heard they're a dominant presence on campus. That's really my vision for for the team. I also want them to think about the women too. We have a women's team.
We have a women's team now.
Yeah, so I want women.
Yeah.
I want women to think about, when I get to college, I want to join the women's PB rugby team.
Yeah, we have a little women's sevens team. They looking fierce. Okay.
Dude, this what's up. Wait.
Yeah.
Why aren't they coming to the HBCU Rugby Classic?
Oh, they are. When it comes to competing, they're having we're planning on for them to have a few scrimmages and a few little friendly games here. But it's their first year playing.
Right.
So a lot of them, they will be returning next year. So it's giving them time to grow. Because when we leave, they got to set the foundation for the women's division. So
Right.
Yeah.
Right. No, and that's what I'm talking about. That is the other side, being able to see that develop too, because a lot of people, I always tell people, look, in other sports, it always feels like there's some kind of inequity that goes with it. You go football and you go women's football and you go, eh. You go basketball and women's basketball, people go, eh. But if you go see women's rugby and you go see women's rugby, you're just like, no. Everybody's just a beast in this one. It's just beast mode. There's no rule differences and all that. It's they just getting it done out there too. So to be able to know that you guys have been looking out for that, and especially makes a huge difference. And like you guys, changes the narrative in a major way.
Yeah. It's been such a great thing. Like we said, we don't have it goes to also show how well our coaching abilities are, because we have to actually coach the girls, and it's not like with the guys we're more like on field coaches, but with the girls we're actually sitting there, going over the X's and O's. It's something that I didn't even notice we were doing until the other day. I was looking and we're just helping out the wings and helping out the scrums, and it's wow, it's crazy. Somebody was once teaching me this, and now I'm teaching a whole women's division, on how to play this sport. So it's beautiful. This is why we want to go out there and show out, because we're more than just a men's rugby team. We're a rugby family, and it's beautiful. It's crazy when we think about it, but the women's division has already started. We're already getting jerseys and everything. So they're really serious about it. Yeah. So it's such a great look for the university.
Dude, that's awesome. That's one of the best things I've gotten to hear. Because I know there's a lot of these girls out here who have been, as I keep getting hit by a lot of coaches asking about that in a major way too. Is there girls rugby at some HBCUs and stuff? And, we heard little starts and stops, but, I remember actually even Rico telling me last year you guys had started working on it. So to hear that it's even developed, that it's developed to the point where you guys have establishment, and even next year you got a great return, it's going to work the same with it did for the men's side. So that is truly massive in that. But and we'll add one more bit of praise to you guys. Don't get too big-headed on it, though. But it's I do have to say, I have to appreciate that you guys have always been consistent, whether it is on what you guys do with social media, making sure you guys have good games, making sure that you guys are together. From you guys say you see me, I see what you guys are doing too, and I'm really happy, because not a lot of teams do it, and especially when it comes to teams that you're starting up, you're creating generation. This is coaches that you guys push out from that, refs that you guys push out from what you guys do. So I'm really happy to know that you guys have continued to press the boundaries and as I said before, changing the narrative one step at a time. So big ups to you guys for doing that work. So yeah.
Thank you so much.
But all right, well, that's all I got for today. I want to thank you guys. Mike, Rhahim, thank you so much for just taking the time.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Dude, I want to thank again Mike Toussaint, Rhahim Vital. Great. Thank you for having you guys come on. I really appreciate it. And guys, check out some of our other podcasts. We had Naya Tapper on. We had Dave Rhymes, USA All-American and Atlantis rugby player out of Florida. And of course, we had Kyle and Tiana Granby of Roots Rugby. So great interviews, great talks. We have a lot more coming up for the coming weeks. You guys stay tuned. Please, again, check us on our website, GiftTimeRugby.com. GiftTime, you can find us on social media at GiftTime Rugby on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube as well. You're going to be seeing this here on YouTube. And please do not hesitate to follow. Please do not hesitate to like. You can check this out on all the podcast platforms. And again, like I said, enjoy. Please share it with your friends and family. We want to do something big for you guys, and the more that you guys are showing love, the more motivation it is for me to make sure you guys get the best, because you deserve it. And I really do appreciate all you have. So you guys have a great day. You guys stay safe, stay healthy, stay blessed, stay loved, and maintain good vibes in your direction. This is all going to come to an end, but make sure you can take the sweet out of the bitter. This is Gift Time, a Bailu here on the Greaux Rugby Podcast. See you soon.
Grow Rugby, Grow Rugby, Grow Rugby, Grow Rugby.